Hello, my name is Jesse Reichler. I'm the lead designer of the board game New York Noir, and today I'm going to give you the first of several tutorials on using the new online map and search tools for New York Noir. So you can see here I have the website open. This is newyorknoir.org. There's a bunch of tabs here for features I'm not going to talk about today. Today I'm on the map tab, and everything I talk about will be here on this one screen. Now, I'm not going to show you all of the features of the tool in this video. This will be sort of the overview video, and then I'll do a video on advanced use, a video on playtesting cases with the tool, and then a video on using these tools to author cases. So a couple more preliminaries before we start here. I do want to give credit to Peter Wright, who produced the first version of these tools, which this takes great inspiration from. You can see his metagames project for more information about that. I should also say this is a very new tool, so expect features to change, and if you've got requests or bug reports, I'd like to hear them. Okay, so let's understand the basic layout here. On the left panel here, we have a map of the world. In this case, it's a map of Manhattan. That's the world that New York Noir is set in, Manhattan of the 1920s and 30s. So you can drag and pan around. You can use the mouse wheel up to scroll in or down to scroll out. So that's the map here on the left. I'll talk about all these buttons shortly, but first let me explain the second half of this display, which is the sidebar with all these panels here, these tabs for different kinds of searches. Now, New York Noir is a detective game inspired by Sherlock Holmes' Consulting Detective. Most of it is designed, well, it's designed to be played analog with printed copies of directories and a map atlas. So that's most of the people who like this kind of game will want to be playing on paper, but this is a tool both for players and authors. So the first two tabs here, the white pages, the yellow pages, and the reverse directory directly mirror the physical directories that you get in New York Noir. So the white pages, you can search for names of residences or businesses that start with these terms. So if I type in Brown, I'm going to get businesses that start with the word Brown and residences of Manhattan, whose last name is Brown. And all the residences are last name, comma, first name. So you can see here in the results, we've got the name of the person or place. We've got their actual physical address. We've got their lead number that you would look up in the casebook. And then we've got their neighborhood and block location. And you can see on the map here, the people and businesses are indicated in various ways here. The red dots are residences, normal houses here. So here's Brown R, Brown John, Brown A. These orange markers are businesses. So here's Brown's Independent Brewery, which we can see here. In fact, if I click on this, you'll see it. And then this button, which zooms in. I'll talk about all these buttons in a bit, but if I click on it, you can see it highlights it. There are a couple other different colors that are used for residences. For example, here's someone who lives in an apartment. If I click on this, we'll zoom down to them and we can see Brown W. And you can see that person lives in apartment 1B of an apartment building. That's why they're colored purple. And then there's another color, yeah, brown, you can see here. Brown is like purple. It's someone who lives in a duplex, so front, rear, or upper, lower, two people living in a building. sort of important to differentiate between people living in apartments from other people because apartment buildings have doormen that you could talk to, etc. So here, all of these tabs are going to show these results in fairly similar fashion. You've got a list of the number of results found. It's as you type, it will start searching. If there's too many results, like here, if I type S, these are all places starting with S. It says there's 1,700. It's showing the first 500. So if I hit enter here, it would show all 1,764 places. Not frequently very useful to see so many. But if they all fit on the screen, it will just search as you type. So that's the white pages. Yeah, and I can clear this here. Yellow pages here. In fact, I'm going to show you one thing a little bit earlier than I imagined. So all of this building art are real buildings in New York City in the 30s or so. But to make it a little simpler, I'm going to switch to a map tile set, which doesn't have the building art. I'll tell you more about these buttons later, but this will just make it easier for us to see things. These letters here are the neighborhoods, 35 different neighborhoods or so in Manhattan. Okay, let's go to the yellow pages. Yellow pages are by category. So here we can see accountants clustered down here in the financial district. Advertising agencies clustered here in Times Square, and so on here. Apartment buildings all over the city. Armories, not that many of them here. Occasionally you'll get a business, let's see, cafes. Occasionally you get a business that's got another category that you might want to that's related. So if I click restaurants here, it'll click on restaurants and then back and forth. So the yellow pages lists all the businesses in that category. Sometimes we've got chain restaurants, etc. But formatted in the same way. And again, if you hover over it, you get the details. The reverse directory is quite different, and it's something you don't see in Sherlock Holmes. But let me show you what it's all about. If I type CM35, what we get is all of the businesses and people who live on the 35 block of the Carnegie Mansion neighborhood. So here they are. And here they are listed here, including a special action that lets you canvas around this block. The reverse directory is a little different also in that you can click on a block on the map to list its places. So if I just, if I scroll over here to Yorkville and click on 46 Yorkville, we see all the places that are located on that block. So these are the three main directories that you'll be spending most of your time with when you play New York Noir, either with the physical version of the directories or with the online versions. Okay, let me show you, now that I've shown you the three main search tabs, let me just show you some other parts of the interface. You can adjust the sidebar, smaller or larger. You can see the tabs when you click on them expand to show the name of the tab here. I've been showing you New York Noir, but the map tools are a little more general. And one thing we could do is we could load a new world data set. And the main one we have in here is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So if I load that up, what you see here is the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective map. This is the map by Space Cowboys. Everything works the same here. If I type Brown, we get people named Brown, and here they are shown on the map. Some of them are well, I guess all of these, there's a person who's not actually on the map. It's in a neighborhood that's not rendered. But here, anyway, here we are. We can click on a block to see the people in the WC neighborhood 8 block. Everything works the same. We've got our categories as well. So that's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And in fact, just like I switched between a map with building art and no building art with New York Noir, here we can switch between the original 1980s Sleuth Publications map and the more modern Space Cowboys map. But let's go back now to New York Noir. Okay, what else did I want to show you? You can hold down the shift key to drag an area and it will zoom into that area. Let's just click through some of these other sidebar tabs. The advanced search I'm not going to talk about in today's session, but here's a little reminder that comes on the screen that points out that the advanced search is something you as a player, you would not normally be able to do. There's ways to do searches that you can't do with the physical printed documents, and so the online tool wants to make sure that you really want to enable it before doing it. I'll talk about that in a separate video. There's a bookmark system here. We haven't made any bookmarks, but let's imagine we were playing a case and we searched for the Brown Typewriter Company, and maybe that's important in our case. So here I have selected it, and I can click this little star to bookmark it. You can see it gets a little bigger here, and now it'll show up in my bookmarks list. And now you can see I'm on the bookmarks tab. Only my bookmarks are showing on the map. So here they are. If I had a whole bunch of them, we'd see them all. We can remove it from the bookmarks. We can do other stuff to customize it. We can locate it, etc. The S tab is for saved searches. So for example, if I often, in a case I'm playing, need to find all the people named Brown, I could click on this little menu here and say save current search. Now I could clear it. Let's zoom out a bit. What you're seeing here dimly are my bookmarks. I'll show you how to, let me turn that off for now. We can get back to that later. Okay, so if I go to save searches and here is the Brown search in the white pages that I searched for Brown, I could delete it, but if I click here, it'll rerun it. So here are it's rerun the search for the word Brown. So that's your saved searches. Now let's just click on someone here. Let's say Dennis Brown is over here. Let's say we were playing for a while, visiting places. The H tab is your history tab. It's basically got a history of all the places we clicked on and all the searches we ran. So here were the blocks we visited. I can rerun these at any time. Remember when we clicked on this block, CM44. And here's when we visited Dennis Brown. So if you've run a search, visited some person, checked out something, and you've forgotten it, it's all in the history. This will keep the last couple hundred places ordered by the most recent ones at the top and the least recent at the bottom. And in fact, you could go and bookmark or save a search from here. If you realize, okay, I ran a search for banks a couple of minutes ago. That's an important search. I want to rerun that. I could bookmark it. Same thing for people. The last tab here is the log tab. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's basically keeping track like the history, but time-stamped, and this won't eliminate duplicates. So this is basically like a log of everything you've done. And you can actually write your own notes here. So if you were playing a case, you could write, at this point I realized the killer is not Mrs. Brown. So you can write your own notes here, and you can export this and copy it to the clipboard. And for playtesting, this is especially useful because this will keep track of paragraphs you've read, and I'll show you all of that later. Okay, so you've got the basic idea of the tool now. You've got the ways to conduct searches in the sidebar, you've got the map and a way to interact with the map. Let me just show you some settings now, and then we'll get back to some of these buttons and some of the buttons here. Okay, so settings, we've got a full help on all of the features, including some big long help sections on advanced searches and different ways to do things, import, export. There's a version history of the latest version, etc. And you can actually search inside the help. We already saw selecting world files. Okay, let's look at our settings here. You've got a setting for the basic interface. If you're on a small screen, and I've got this on a pretty small screen here, you can switch to a compact layout, which just makes the results take up less space. There's a dark theme if you prefer a dark interface, and in fact I could go and make the map a dark map. I'll go into all that in a bit. So let's go back to the normal theme. We've got some options depending. These affect things in these buttons on the map. I'll show you in a minute. If you don't want to log your actions because you're not playtesting a case, you could click this button to hide the log panel, give you a little more sidebar space. There's a tab here for authors to enable features. And again, reminders that if you're playing a game with this tool, you shouldn't enable these. So we're not going to talk about them today. I'll leave them disabled. You can choose what markers are used for businesses. Might depend on what's easier for you to see. We've got a couple of utility actions here to export all settings and bookmarks and history and import them all. Everything is saved in your local browser. This is not saving anything on the web server. It's all in your local browser. So if you had a different computer you used and you wanted to save your bookmarks and bring them over, or your settings, you could do that here. You can also tell it to delete all the stored settings in your browser. And then we just got a little log of any errors. Okay, so that's the settings. Now I guess we'll look at these options here in the map controls here. Well, we've just got to zoom in and zoom out. We've got buttons here to let you quickly have a full panel just for the directories if you don't care about the map. This gives you more space for the search results. And in the same way, if you're just working on the map, you can get the sidebar out of the way. All right, you already saw what this tile selection lets you choose between. It's different versions of the map, essentially. So here's our default map with the building art and without the building art. And we can also have an overlay that shows us subway lines in Manhattan. All right, let's go back to the minimal set here. The next button here is for visual effects. Mostly this is used if you're having a hard time spotting all your markers, if they sort of blend into the background. So you could choose a lower contrast view of the map that makes it easier for you to see all the locations, and just various versions of that, including some dark version that might make it a little easier for you to spot your points of interest. This button here just resets the view to the full map. This button here zooms into the visible items. So in this case, it's not going to zoom in much, just zooms in to get the northernmost and southernmost. But perhaps if we're on the bookmarks tab, we could click this and it would just go to the places I've bookmarked. In this case, there's only one. So let's reset. Okay, then we have some slightly advanced features that maybe I won't talk too much about, but basically from the layer control, you can choose what results on other tabs are visible on your current tab. So right now with them all off, basically whenever we switch to a tab, we see only the items from that tab. So for example, here's art galleries. And if I switch to brown, you see no art galleries are shown. Yellow pages shows art galleries. And if we're doing a reverse search and we were clicked here, that would be this place. So these are all independent tabs, and the bookmark tab is independent. But sometimes you might want to be searching for something and want to see the other tabs available. Maybe we care about art galleries, but we're looking for someone who might live near an art gallery. So we could go to this white pages tab and then say, okay, show me the yellow pages and bookmarks on top of whatever tab I'm looking at. So here you are, they're semi-transparent. So there's the brown on the white pages, and here's the yellow pages and the bookmarks shining through. Let's turn that off for now. Okay, I think the last thing to show you, well, a couple more things to show you. First of all, let me show you this neighborhood selection. So if I click this thing here, I can highlight specific neighborhoods. For example, here's Greenwich Village. So basically, it's highlighted the boundary of Greenwich Village and dulled outside of it. The settings had options for how dull you want this outside to be, etc. So if you're dealing with a case that's specific to a neighborhood, this will help you focus that a little bit. And okay, so that's that. So that I've walked you through the buttons on the map. This one brings up a PDF reader. I'm not going to talk about that today. This one just gives you information about what you're looking at. All right. So the last thing to show you then is the buttons on results. So let me clear this neighborhood selection. Let's make this a little bit more specific. Okay. Okay, so Brown's Gallery. I'm going to click on it. It will zoom to it. All right. When you click on a place, in addition to going to it, you've got a bunch of buttons that open up. This one here just zooms to it on the map and shows you a little highlight of where it is if you can't find it. These two buttons are for bookmarking it. So this one will bookmark it, and you can see it gets a little bigger and changes color a little bit when you bookmark it. This button here lets you edit the bookmark. I'm not going to, and make notes and customize. I'm not going to go into details about that yet. I'll do that on a separate video. We can copy it to the clipboard in various formats, including just a plain listing of the place, just the lead number, and then much more detail about it. Okay, copy it to a clipboard or save it to a file. You can also, from the menu here, export all the results. So you could export a whole list of these results in different format to the clipboard or to a file. This button here makes an anchor of this place. I'll just show you what that looks like. You can only have one anchor at any given time, and when you set an anchor, all other results show you how far away they are from the anchor. I'll go into more detail about how anchors work in a separate video. For now, I'll just turn it off here. This button here will actually look up this lead in a casebook. That's for playtesting, so we'll talk about that another day. I think that is sufficient to give you an idea of how the tool works and how you use the various results. We'll have a separate video where I'll talk about the advanced searches and the advanced features, and I'll see you then.